And we're back with another episode of Franchise My Business, the podcast for franchisors, hosted by franchisors. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and today we're going to dig into home renovation. Home renovation is, I think, something that's going to be more and more in demand, even more so than we were in the peak of the pandemic. Because when interest rates are increasing and people can't move from their homes, a lot of times they will look at making some improvements. We've got a phenomenal founder and CEO of Renovation Sells. With the word sells in there, you can kind of think, hey, they're positioning things to sell, but my gut tells me that they're also going to have a lot of people that stay in place over the coming years. So without further ado, please help me welcome Michael. And you go by Mike, right?
Correct.
All right, so we'll just call you Mike Valente to the show. Mike, welcome, sir.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Let's talk about the name of your biz, Renovation Sells. Why don't you just tell us what it is that you do and why the business is called that?
Yep. So our whole business model is around doing quick cosmetic updates to houses right before they get listed for sale. And the idea is that pretty finished homes sell faster and for more money. So Renovation Sells is definitely what that encompasses. But to your point earlier, we don't just do renovation for houses that are going for sale. We also do renovations for people who are moving into their house or people who are staying in their home. Now, the key difference between us and some other remodelers is really what we like to focus on is cosmetic renovations. So we're not interested in those long drawn out projects, architectures, inspections, full plans, and ripping down walls and building additions. What we really want to do is take a space, put a great thoughtful design behind it, and do quick makeovers. So we don't want to remove your cabinets. We want to paint your cabinets. We want to change your countertops in place. We're all about cosmetic renovations, either for sale or for the homeowner in general.
And what I heard that you didn't say in that process is a little bit more affordable than, wholesale, hey, we're going to take out our cabinets. And that's probably something that I think is attractive to people in today's world, not just preparing for a sale, but also for somebody who wants to stay in place. It's like, hey, if cost of capital goes up, people don't necessarily have as much available. So are you guys starting to see a bigger percentage of people who are kind of staying in place in lieu of moving?
Without question. And what you said earlier is true, right? So like the cost to do a kitchen the way we do it, in place renovation can be a third of the cost of what a full remodel would be. But what you really can get is the same exact look, because a lot of times the layouts and the footprints are pretty much what you can have in a particular space. The problem is that it can be 10, 15, 20 years dated, so it just doesn't look up to date. Now, to your second question, do you see more people staying in your homes? Absolutely. If you get into the current economics of what's going on in the residential real estate market, really what we have is a frozen housing market. We have people that are drunk on low interest rates. I think something like 90% of the country has a rate that's under 5%, and 70% of the country has a rate that's under 4%. And what you're doing is you have this lock-in effect. So people don't want to move because even a lateral move from one house to the next house at the same price is going to cost them exponentially more to live there. So people aren't leaving or bringing their house to market. But what you are seeing is that people still like their house, but maybe what they don't like about it is they don't like the look. So how can you take that house without doing major construction? You can do the facelift that we do, achieve the same look at a third of the cost.
I absolutely love that. I love it, love it, love it. Yeah, and I think that there's a huge component that would, there's a huge segment of people that's got to be super attractive to. Particularly like if you buy like an older home or something like that. I'm thinking back to like my very first home. My very first home was a post-World War II home. It was built in the 1940s. What was the very first thing that I did to it? I came in and I painted the cabinets. I did a lot of the things that you guys do. I just did it myself because I was a 20-something-year-old kid, right? But now, like, there's people that do that, and I think that's really cool. I think that's really, really cool because you're helping people build more equity in their homes and whatnot. How did you decide to get into this business?
Well, that goes back to a little bit more of the history, which is a great question. So I've been a licensed realtor and a licensed general contractor for 15 years, since 2007. I've done lots of different investments, developments, but we always also did for hire general contracting work. And for a long time, I just was a for hire general contractor on traditional type products, big projects where we would do additions and we would do gut rehabs of houses that took a year or longer. And we ended up working with a designer here in Chicago who did really high-end work. We did high-end projects, but what comes with really high-end projects is you have high-end problems. So I call some of those I call some of those projects brain damage.
Yes.
So we learned our design side that way. Love design, love construction, love the whole process. Just didn't like the long lead times, the plans, the permits, the execution of it. The other side of that is we always sold our business into realtors, and that's how we sell today too. We target the top 500 realtors in any given market, control 90% of the market. So let's just become and make great relationships with those realtors, and they'll bring us our whole book of business. But realtors along the way, from 2012 up till 2018, always said, "Hey, can you paint cabinets or change counters?" It's something we initially shied away from, but we kept getting asked to do it. So we just said, sure, we can do this. It's easy for us. And when we looked at the margins on it, we realized that, hey, these really facelift projects, number one, they're easier than the bigger projects. Number two, they have really good margins on them. And, when we were creating Renovation Sells, at least the corporate model, we were just kind of at that tipping point. It was like we didn't really want to do high-end custom projects for high net worth people anymore. But we love design and we love renovations and we love the before and afters. So that was like the aha moment. Like, why don't we take all the things we love about construction and eliminate all the things we don't? And so because we had always done projects facelifting for realtors, we said, well, why don't we just stop taking big high-end projects and just tell all the realtors we know that we'll facelift their houses before they get listed for sale. So hence, we facelift houses before they get listed for sale. Hence, Renovation Sells was born in 2018. We had a good first year, but then we exploded in the second year. And we really had something that we were like, well, how do we scale this? And we came across the franchising model. I'm not from the franchising world. I love entrepreneurship. It's a very entrepreneurial driven model. And I said, franchising is what we're going to do. We literally took about 30 minutes, my wife and I, to decide that we were going to franchise. I'm a true entrepreneur where, I'll jump off the roof and figure out how to fly while I'm falling. I said, that's what we're going to do. And that was it. And so we started franchising in 2020. And today we've got 45 locations in 23 states. And here I am.
Bless your heart, man. And, bless our wives' hearts, right? And I know you work with your wife. There's got to be a lot of trust when us crazy entrepreneurs come in, from a run or whatever we're doing. We're like, hey, we're going to do fill in the blank. And they got to look at us and be like, okay, Mr. Visionary, how are we going to get this done? That's the question that I always get asked. But I think it's super cool that you work with your spouse. And so Amanda is your chief marketing officer as well as...
And chief operating officer. She's really...
And COO.
Well,
all right.
Yeah,
she's the glue.
She does both.
She's the glue.
She's the glue. Not only that, is she's the wheels. I've got all these crazy ideas, but ask me to put a process around one of those ideas and, good luck. But I think similar to you, I just spew with ideas and with direction, and I know and I make quick decisions, but I can't actually put all those pieces together to roll it out, so, how do I work with my wife is kind of what you were getting at. And you said, God bless us, but it's really, she's very good at things that I'm very bad at and vice versa, and so we kind of stay out of each other's way, even though we work together. Like, she runs her team, I do my thing. And, I don't micromanage what she does. She's got her side without question.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, there's a good book that I've mentioned on this podcast before, and I don't know if you've read it. It's called Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman, and he's also the inventor of Traction. The operating system that you can install into businesses. And listeners, if you hear us crazy visionaries, you're hearing a common theme, because typically it's the visionary CEO that's a guest on here, and the most successful franchisors have an integrator. Integrator is typically the yin to the yang, the fire to the water, the process and make stuff happen person versus the person coming by with the grandiose visions on where we're going to take the organization. And that really is the key to a successful business. I believe that it's really, really challenging to do too much, make too big of a dent with just visionaries at the table.
Any business,
a lot of
any business, you need an operator. You need a leader, you need a visionary, and then you need someone that can take that vision and put it into play. And most, and I'm not saying all, but a lot of entrepreneurs that I speak to, just like yourself, they're very clear and understand what they're good at, and then they give off what they're bad at. And I was always very clear about, look, I'm not the operator. You don't want me to operate. You want me to think, move, make decisions, and lead, and that's what I'm good at.
Amen. So let's talk a little bit about your timing in this business. So, it's a pretty common thing since we specialize in interviewing emerging franchisors. A lot of these franchise systems came up and were hatched during the middle of a global pandemic, which is, just a certain external variable that, puts a different flavor on business. But my question for you is, as a result of that, and I believe that your economic current scenario is because we stopped the world for 6 weeks, and the backlog, we're just seeing what happens. Hey, that was the world's biggest experiment that we've never done, and here's what we're going to live with. What have you guys seen? So, like, particularly, I'm in real estate. I love real estate. I know what's happening in real estate right now. I see it in my neighborhood where we actually have a bunch of spec houses going up in my neighborhood. It blows my mind, and they're getting absorbed. Like, there are still buyers.
Without question.
I mean, transactions are still happening. What are you guys seeing? Are you seeing a decrease, like, from your realtors, if they're your main source of deal flow? Like, is the business continuing to grow from the real estate, driven transaction side of the biz? Because people still got to move. Houses still need to be fixed up. It just may not be. It may be a need, not a want.
Yeah,
right?
I think what you get is, because we do both sides, right? Like, we do the pre-sale side, and then we do the for buyer side, and then we do the side where the people stay in. Again, it's all got to be cosmetic. That's never going to go away. I think what you deal with more are external market influences. Yes, high rates. So if people need to get a loan to pay for it, it's more expensive. The stock market yesterday, the S&P was flat for the whole year. It lost all its gains. So when people are evaluating, right, like how to pay for something, the need and demand will forever and is always going to be there for some sort of construction, period. The problem is the cost of capital and what it costs people to remodel. So what you get is you still have high level of interest. It just becomes a tad bit harder to sell the construction just because of the fact that people are thinking twice. But it doesn't mean, if someone can't leave their house, right, or doesn't want to leave their house because they're locked into that 3.5%, or I've heard somebody the other day said they were at like a 2 2/4, and I thought that was nuts. That's you?
That's me.
2 1/4.
Oh yeah, we've got like a 2.5. We looked at it's so low. It's maybe it was like 2.75, but it's so low that I'm like, yeah, we never planned on moving. Like, we built our forever house in 2010, so we don't care.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to move right now, we wouldn't.
No.
Because of that.
You still may want to update. So like you have this, and maybe you don't want to rip apart your whole kitchen and add an addition because you're not leaving anywhere. So what's the next best option is, well, how about I paint my cabinets, change my counters, do a backsplash, add new light fixtures. You can
feel good
results. So to your question was, do we see a down? We don't see a downturn in opportunities. The opportunities are there, and the more realtors we know, the more opportunities we get, because construction and remodeling is not going away. We see it just a little bit tougher, where people are a little bit more conscious on the pricing and the decisions that they're making. Inflation and pricing has taken hold, and people are starting. Now the consumer is always 6 months behind a lot of the professionals. They're starting to pull back a little bit. So some of that pullback affects, am I going to spend $50,000 for a bathroom, or would I maybe just paint the house for 10? So that's what you see. But consumers are also impatient. So that will go away. Once we get some sort of landing, they will come back and say, give me the top of the line stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the cyclical nature of the real estate market that we play in anyway.
Yep. It is definitely cyclical. I mean, I remember my first house, my interest rate was the house we talked about. It was 7.5%. And when rates went down to 6.5% and I refinanced, I thought I had just landed on the moon. I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got a rate below 7. Holy smokes, this is amazing. I gave myself a pay raise, right? So it's all perspective. It's a cyclical market. I do want to talk more about how your franchise works, because I got to think that there's people here that, home renovation, I think, is one of those things that a lot of people dream of. I think they think it can be fun, and particularly if you're a creative person. But maybe they've thought about getting into that business, but they're like, I'm not a designer. I don't know how to renovate a house, right? And I'm guessing that a lot of your franchise owners come in with no construction experience. Would you say that is true?
It's a mix. We have some people that definitely do not have construction experience. In fact, my number one franchisee, she had no construction experience, but she's a master at networking, and that was how she generated her business. And she's learned, and she's brought in professionals to help her along the way. But we have some people that do have construction experience, and they also do very well. If you understand construction and can sell construction, that can help you start faster. So it's definitely a mix of all of the above. I think what people do have that's pretty consistent is they all love real estate, they love construction, they love design. So like that passion has to be there. I think that what we do is what they do on TV, but we do it in real life. What actually they do on TV is actually fake. We actually
I know
for real. So people enjoy that we you can actually do what you do on TV. That's our business model, right? So that's what we do. So anyway, it's a mix between people who understand but people who are passionate is the most important.
Yeah, I guess HGTV is probably a big ally for you guys. I mean, it's our guilty pleasure whenever we travel, my wife and I, if we've got, because we don't really do cable. We haven't done cable since we were parents, but if we have cable in a hotel room, we'll watch HGTV, and even as a family, it's a lot of fun, right?
Right.
Watching those houses get transformed, knowing it's dramatized, but being like, hey, that's something I could really do for people. I think that would be really, really rewarding too if somebody's listening and they like to see the difference that they make in somebody's life, like a physical affirmation of what you did, because you're going to have a piece of real estate that started out in one state and then you've got this completed project in the other state. So if you're somebody who's listening who gets a lot of reward out of before after type of stuff and you're looking for a business opportunity, this would be one of those that would be probably pretty rewarding for that type of person who responds to that. I've noticed that you guys also have a relationship or have in-house or somehow you have financing available to kind of help you, it looks like through a banking partner, which is smart.
Correct.
To really help overcome objections for your franchisees who maybe come to somebody who needs a little bit of money, maybe even just short term for that transaction, right?
Correct. Yep.
To get the deal closed on the market for 3-4 months, whatever the period of time is.
Yep.
So that's really cool.
Yep.
What other things have you done within your business to help? Because I assume while you're still a third of the price, when I'm coming to sell my house, particularly thinking about selling, one of the last things you want to do is spend a bunch of money. But your real estate agent will probably say, "Hey, we need to make this current because you're going to get twice as much return on your investment that you put in place right now." Are you seeing? Are you guys seeing that as like a barrier for people, or are people generally like, hey, I get it. I trust my real estate agent. We're going to do this renovation stuff because we know that a cleaner, more updated house will yield a higher price. Like, is that something that people have to overcome, your franchisees have to overcome?
Yeah, without question. I mean, look, the hardest part in what we do is the sales and networking part, right? Like we're
education.
We're education, sales, networking. You have to go make great relationships with realtors. Realtors have to trust you. Your earlier question was, well, do their clients trust the realtors? The answer is most of the time, yes. Not always. Yeah. There's never an always yes. Sure. Most people hire a realtor for who they know and, their level of expertise. And so the really good realtors that we work with will sit down, talk with the client. And I've even heard realtors when they're on listing appointments say, hey, look, if you don't make these updates and you don't bring your house up to market, I'm not even going to represent you. Because it takes no time, because I don't think we're going to sell it, But there's some realtors that will sit at the kitchen table and tell the clients whatever they want to hear just to collect a listing, and they know they're never going to sell it. But the really good realtors that know us, they will say, look, you're going to update your house, and by the way, I have the perfect partner. That's why you're going to use me. We're going to bring in Renovation Sells. They have a financing program that can give you money to do this work that you don't have to pay it back until after the house is closed. And that's really where the value of that realtor happens, right? So the homeowners do trust the realtor in terms of what the realtor says, and those are the realtors we're trying to connect with.
Yeah, I wish I would have had you in our back pocket back, when we were selling houses in the late 90s, or I guess late 90s last time I sold real estate. But it was kind of fractured, meaning, hey, I had a cabinet guy that could renovate the cabinets. I had, my roofing guy, but I couldn't call like a single source to just be like, hey, let's get this thing updated. I
Yep.
didn't have that resource. Guys like you and your business weren't around back then. So it's really cool that for the real estate agents, real estate agents like to have their core stable of partners that they trust to work on their buyers and sellers' properties. And it's cool that you're able to fill that gap from a renovation perspective. Because, that's something that was a gap, at least back when I was selling
We're
stuff.
one of the few. We were the creators of the pre-sale renovation market, there, and
Oh, really?
there's only a handful of companies that do pre-sale renovations. There are about 4 or 5 of us. We're the only franchise company that does pre-sale renovations, and we are the largest by locations with 45 across the country. So it's a relatively new model, and there's only a handful of us that specialize in this cosmetic updates that we do.
You're a purple cow.
What's a purple?
Have you ever?
No.
So one of the world's most, I would say, prolific marketers, Seth Godin is his name. He wrote a book called Purple Cow in the early 2000s. It's about marketing. It's about marketing. It's not necessarily about marketing. It's about building a business that's so remarkable that people talk about it. It's a purple cow, something you don't see every day.
Yeah.
It's about, sometimes creating a new category of business, right? Being remarkable. Being remarkable. And you're remarkable by coming in and addressing an unmet need and then going out and blowing it out and making it a national business and sharing it with other entrepreneurs. It's a purple cow. You're the first one. So what's your best moo?
I'll take the purple cow designation. What I also, I don't know if I'm going to move for you, but what I also heard one time, and this is cliche, but people always say find your niche. And it took us a long time to find our niche. Like, you have to really understand the market, understand all the dynamics of a market, be in a particular market, and then figure out what the angle is, right?
Yeah.
And I'll wrap that up with a little bow. Is I heard someone who was pitching, businesses on what's called a franchise sales FSO who pitches to the brokers, and she stood up, and I'll never forget it. And she was like, "The riches are in the niche.
The riches are in the niches, bitches, is actually how it goes.
Yeah, so that's right. You said that. But the riches are
I said it. My show, I get to say it.
Your show, you said it. The riches are in the niches. And it's so
it's true, though.
It's so simple to say, but like our niche is pre-sale cosmetic renovation. That's what we do really well. There's not many people that do it, and there's all kinds of niches out there. You just have to find what that niche is and then do really well at it. And I think you have to be unafraid to not come off of your niche, right? Like, because people are going to say, well, why aren't you building that $1 million spec home? Or why aren't you taking on that $500,000 addition? You know what? I'd rather take a $30,000 facelift project over that. And so you've got to get really serious about your niche and then get really good at that. And then that's how the riches are in the niches. That
brings me to a good question, because we know that franchise owners, they're entrepreneurs. Like, as a matter of fact, as a franchisor, one of the hardest jobs you can sign up for, in my opinion, is being a franchisor. Because imagine that you get a bunch of people who are entrepreneurs and then you make them color inside the lines. You're like, hey, here's the box. Don't go outside the box. They always go outside the box one way or another. And that's good. Sometimes going outside the box causes innovation and can improve your franchise system, right? But do you hear feedback from some franchisees that, hey, there's lost opportunities because, hey, I got this big deal. Can we just do this big one? Or do they mostly stay in their lane and not get distracted by bigger opportunities that may be available and presented to them?
I think distraction in any business is natural and real. I think that, if you're running a business and you're going to get opportunity that may not fit your model. I think something that we do is educate and talk to them about, and look, I'm someone that's been distracted. Everything I've learned by mistake. I made the mistake and then I learned it. And part of a mistake I learned in the early 2012 was you can't develop buildings, flip houses, and run a good general contracting company all at one time. Now, maybe some people can. It's just hard. It was too distracted. And each one of those segments is its own business and should be focused on. And so, it's more of the education that we start off early with training when they come in town. We have a really robust training program, firsthand knowledge. A lot of people are very knowledgeable in our field that work with our company. And it's saying, this is our model. This is what we're good at. You are going to hear distractions. We need you to, really evaluate those distractions and determine if that's something you want to do. So I think people in our system are fairly good at staying within the lines because we teach what that distraction is. On the inverse, now I'll talk out the other side of my mouth, is I want to hear about new opportunities. I want you to take my business and run it better than me and tell me things I never thought of. And now, so look, I welcome feedback. So people may call me and say, Mike, I thought of this. I think we should do this. Great. Let's try it out and let's see what that looks like. So there's a balance of both. Definitely. How do you innovate and grow without, stretching the boundary, going outside of the niche that you're in?
Yeah, I think that's always the entrepreneur's challenge, because we are visionaries, we'll see cool things. A lot of times we're service-minded people. We like to please others, including ourselves, and staying focused while also keeping an open mind is probably one of the biggest challenges. But, and I will, maybe wrap on this, is the fact that some of the best ideas in franchise systems come from franchisees. Yeah. You can go back and you can look at The Founder, the movie with Michael Keaton about McDonald's and the milkshakes. You can go look at my last company where one of the suggestions from a franchisee caused us to build a division that ended up being 25% of our royalty revenue. Like some of these ideas, your responsibility as a franchisor is to listen. You don't have to implement every single thing that your franchisees bring to the table, but they are smart people and they have ideas and they're valuable. And I think the minute that you close your ears and eyes to their ideas is the minute that you stop being of service to them, and you should probably just hang up your towel.
And you shouldn't stamp out ideas and entrepreneurship. I mean, that's what we're all here for. So everybody approaches it with a different skill, with a different background, with a different history. Yeah. And their ideas around what we're doing, are all different. And so we welcome change. We welcome innovation. We want to hear about new ideas that we've never thought about. And it's our job as a franchisor to sift through those ideas and determine, okay, what do we think is the best path forward? That's literally my job. What are the initiatives, and then what's the best path forward? What are we going to work on first, second, and third? But a lot of that innovation and those ideas do come from listening to our existing franchisees, our partners, to determine what they see and hear. Because I'm not in the field every day anymore. So and the markets shift and they change. So what do we need to do to stay current? And we get a lot of that from our existing franchisees.
Beautiful. If people want to learn more about your organization, maybe we've got somebody who's interested in franchising with you, or they're a homeowner who's thinking about, listing their house and they're interested. What's the best place for them to go to get some more info, Mike?
Go to our website, and just a shameless pitch on our side. We just rebranded. We just rolled out a beautiful new website like 2 weeks ago. It is absolutely
pretty.
Phenomenal.
It's beautiful. It really is beautiful. I know it.
So surf around on there. You can see what we do. And then at the bottom, there's a franchising tab that you can get in touch with inquiries for us. But www.renovationsells.com, renovationsells.com, that's where you can find us. You can learn about us. You can connect with someone if you're interested in doing a project. If you're a realtor, you connect with one of our 45 franchisees, or you can get to us. If you're interested in becoming a franchisee, you can get through us through our website.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to visit with us. I always learn things on these shows, and so I definitely got a couple nuggets here. And I don't know, if you guys have a location. Do you guys have a franchisee in Kansas City in our market?
We do not, but we would love
You
one.
do not? All right. I'll start putting on my thinking hat on people that might be a good fit for filling the gap here in the market. I've got a lot of real estate agent friends here, and I feel like we could send you a ton of business if we just had somebody we could send it to. So,
great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you found value in today's episode, chances are you're thinking about somebody that might also enjoy it. So do me a favor and go ahead and text this episode to them right now, or share it with them via email. Would love it if you left us a review. Until next time, I'm your host, Kevin. I hope that you have a phenomenal week, and be well.